Every day in business starts with a number. Output, productivity, efficiency, all measured in numbers, because data drives decisions. And if fire or water damage strikes, the numbers for your business can slow or even stop. Unless you know this one, 1-800-SERVPRO, the #1 choice in commercial cleanup and restoration.
Rocks and Madeira beaches, chances are we're right around the corner for your next pizza night or dinner date. Come give us a try and experience the Slyce difference.
Life happens everywhere. Like it never even happened, only happens here. The cleanup and restoration specialists at 1-800-SERVPRO and servpro.com.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic, real-world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Hello everyone, welcome live to 3YTV tonight's broadcast of the American Sim Racing Series Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series here for the Slyce Pizza Bar Rockingham 150. It is the first race of the championship round of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series playoffs. And folks, we are here at the Rock. I've been looking forward to this race all season long. I'm Peter Short, and joining me in the booth alongside me here tonight is Nicholas Rees. And Nicholas, we're here at Rockingham. Tires always a story here, as well as, of course, Thunder Alley down the backstretch coming out of turn number 2, a place where you tend to see a lot of accidents. What are you going to say about this racetrack?
No, I haven't seen much racing. I'm going to be honest with you, Peter. I haven't seen much racing here, but I have tuned into a couple of other broadcasts outside of 3YTV, and you know, it gets hectic here. That's what I've been seeing, especially like you said in the Thunder Alley part of the track. So I don't know exactly what I'm expecting. I'm expecting some good racing, some hard racing, and hopefully some action here tonight at the Rock.
Yeah, and of course, NASCAR doesn't go to the Rock anymore. But this racetrack is a racetrack that I absolutely love coming to. I love racing here. It's so unique. The way you get over the bumps, the way the car kind of settles its way into the corner. It's just a fun racetrack to drive. And of course, throw in the little bit of tidbit that you have to save your tires. And this one is going to be a great show. Last week, though, speaking of great shows, we went to Talladega. It was the cutoff race for this final championship round. John Jenkins punched his ticket into the championship final 4. It'll be 4 races to decide the championship between 4 drivers. With the win at Talladega with a fantastic run right there at the end. He really was able to get a pit stop, which put him in the position to take home that checkered flag, and he was able to see it off after leading with 5 laps to go in the 2 races prior to Talladega. He is finally able to get that win. Clarence Bonner coming home second. Jordan Harnish there in third. Michael Krobot, Kelsey Rogers, Michael Whiting, Greg Evans, Adam Jersky, Ed Bray, Jason Stewart rounding out the top 10. But the bigger picture coming into tonight, of course, is the point standing situations because, like I mentioned, this is the final round of the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series Championship, and all these drivers are trying to vie for that Hacksaw PC that the winners are going to get. A little bit of a pack out there on the racetrack right now going off into turn number 2. But John Jenkins, with that win last week at Talladega, he's going to have a little bit of an advantage over Jimmy McKee, Greg Evans, and Adam Jersky, the 3 other drivers trying to go for this championship. And Nicholas, it's been a long season, and these drivers have seen a lot of different racetracks. You know, your season really comes down to this.
Yeah, and now with the season close to wrapping up here, definitely coming down to this. And like in the chat room right now, guys over at DMLC Racing Channel saying, I see this place eating race cars. Yeah, I guess it can definitely eat your race car. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one. It has been a long season, but as these guys are wrapping up just the practice for tonight, and they're going to get into qualifying here in just a little bit, we're going to see what times these drivers will put on the board before we go and grid. So I don't know. It's all comes down to this, and I'm definitely excited to see what happens after this race.
Yeah, of course, the championship picture might come a little bit clearer after tonight. Of course, next week we do go to the American Regardless 225, and then the week after that is the Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown Championship, Martinsville 200. That's the championship for the Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown, not necessarily the championship finale for the series, but at Martinsville we will figure out who's going to win the Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown. The winner of that going to pick up a Sam Maxwell Customs racing wheel and going to kind of win a championship within a championship. Tyler Seville will lead that championship going into the final round. And, of course, November 3rd will be the big night, the American Regardless Championship Finale 200 at Phoenix before we go to close out the season with the All-Star race at the Nashville Fairgrounds. Very much looking forward to that one. It'll be the first time these Cup cars make it to the Nashville Fairgrounds since it's been added to the iRacing service. And I know Nashville Fairgrounds kind of has a spot in the heart of the American Sim Racing Series because American Sim Racing Series has been yearning to get back there in the All-American 400. And luckily this year they can, as we're keeping an eye on Sam Crow here in qualifying. He smacks the wall coming out of turn number 2. We're going to see that a lot here tonight, folks. Like I mentioned, Thunder Alley there coming out of turn number 2. The track narrows up quite a bit. And in fact, let's see if we can drive on board with one of these drivers just a smidgen. Is James Lorello in the number 3. He's going to jump to the top of the board. Here we go, on board with Greg Evans, the 2 who has won so many races right now. Looks like he just completed his lap, and he's going to jump to top of the board. Look at that, a 22.430. Lorello now just about a 10th back. Here we go, on board with the birthday boy, Will Worsler in the number 29. Will Worsler Racing Scheme. Got the Slyce Porcupines all over that car. Of course, tonight is the Slyce Pizza Bar 150, and he's going to work his way into turn number 1 and 2. But just look at all of those bumps that you see. Gets a little bit loose there coming out of turn number 2, Nicholas. We're going to see that a lot tonight.
Yeah, I've been taking a look at some of these other guys, and they're getting loose coming out of turn number 2, and we've been seeing that a lot already throughout the qualifying session. So definitely going to be seeing that tonight, and I'm looking forward to that, seeing how these guys can keep hold of their car to prevent it from actually spinning out there in Thunder Alley. So definitely going to be interesting tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, keep your eyes on the left-hand side of your screen all night long. Those drivers in yellow, Greg Evans, John Jenkins, Jimmy McKee, those are 3 of your playoff drivers trying to go for the championship here tonight. One of those drivers in yellow has yet to qualify. That's the number 69, Beef Jersky's Cheesecake Machine of Adam Jersky. In fact, Jersky just now getting out there on the racetrack, coming out of turn number 4. There he is, a little bit of a different look on that number 69 machine, basically saying, you know what, I'm going for a championship. I need a little bit of a cooler ride. And look at that pink number 69. And, of course, it is the month of October, Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And that might be the reason for that pink mobile. we see right there, gets a little bit crossed up there over the bumps, shoots up the racetrack. That's not typically the fast line around this track. You want to be right down there on the yellow line, at least from the many times I've run here. But for right now, Adam Jersky slotting into the 15th position, Nicholas.
Adam Jersky, of course, with that looks like a breast cancer awareness reference here, paint scheme, as of course, as you mentioned, Peter, October Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and him along with quite a few others, like I said, just going over those bumps and still keeps hang of it, but kind of it's a little loose on him and a couple of these other guys. So definitely going to be seeing a lot of that tonight, Peter, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how these guys can keep hold of that for 150 laps here tonight at Rockingham Speedway.
The thing I really love about Rockingham Speedway, Nicholas, is the fact that if you overdrive the car with the front of your tires, you can burn up the front tires, as Alan Young in the number 24 jumped to the top of the board. How about that? Great job for Alan Young to get the provisional pole. Here comes Doug Mullins. But going back to the point that I was trying to say, if you overdrive the front tires, you can burn them up and you can make your car tight. However, you can also basically cook your rear tires coming out of the corner and even on entry, just the way you get into the corner. It's a driver's racetrack. It's one of those racetracks where you can play games with your tires to affect the way your car is driving. If you want it to be tighter, you can sometimes crank the wheel a little bit harder to try and wear out the front tires, or you can try and loosen it up by driving it in a little bit softly. It's a very interesting racetrack because just the way the entries to the corners are, it's very open entry, and then you get those tires loaded up. So it's one of those racetracks. Tire saving, very important here. Tire wear is paramount, but you can also kind of fiddle around with the way your car drives by the way you yourself drive the car. I know it sounds kind of funny to some of the people here in the chat, but that is one thing you have to keep in mind here at Rockingham, especially over a long run, because these tires do wear out and this racetrack does get pretty slick. Doug Mullins out there on the racetrack right now trying to get some lap times in. Looks like that number 18, trying to see where he's currently being scored by iRacing. Doesn't look like he's being scored with a lap time yet. Trying to come out of turn number 4 to the line here, and it looks like he's just turning practice laps here, so not on a hot lap at all. Maybe he scraped the wall or something, Nicholas, because he's not going to be scored with a lap time at all here in this qualifying session.
You know what, Peter? That's exactly right. I was watching him in his first couple of laps in qualifying, and he did scrape the wall entering turns 1 and 2, and I've actually seen a couple of guys do that on their, thankfully for them, their cool-down lap, but for Doug Mullins, he scraped the wall in turns 1 and 2 mainly there on his hot lap. So, unfortunate qualifying session for him, but thankfully for some of these others, fortunately for them, they didn't scrape the wall, or they scraped the wall on their cool-down lap.
I'm going to turn over to the chat here. We got about 3.5 minutes left here in this qualifying session. Of course, we got the DMLC Racing channel saying, always glad to be here. Jack Myers in the chat as well. Nikki Warsler, Tyler Orrin, Stephen Hollingsworth, a couple of the drivers from the Boswell's Country Roads Thursday night series that we hear, kind of the 1987 throwback series that the American Sim Racing Series puts on. Hope you guys are having a good night. Matt Brown rooting on Will Warser Racing as well as Nikki Warser, Christopher Bouchard in the chat, rooting on Momentum Sim Racing. Jim Foose saying throwback week at ASRS, Rockingham tonight and Thursday. We got the Boswell's Country Roads Harley Davidson Cup Series, and they also have the Truck Series at North Wilkesboro. Of course, that is not on 3 Wide TV, but I'm looking forward to Thursday night's race. And we also have Fat Dog Racing IR18 in the chat as well, saying hello to Mark Cohn and the DMLC Racing channel. Of course, Mark Cohn, one of the Loud Pedal Motorsports family of drivers, and he was on the racetrack last week. Todd Kirkwood saying, let's go Cheesecake Boy. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Greg Rentz is not here tonight. He's missing out on the cheesecake, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to go grab myself a slice of cheesecake here because I'm still a little bit hungry up here in the booth, Nicholas.
Yeah, I mean, and in our ear, Carlos saying that you have some leftovers, Peter, and I mean, I don't think that your stomach knows that you're not hungry or you're full, because from what I'm aware of, you finished your dinner in just a couple of minutes. You were rushing to get to the booth, and I saw you trying to run up here, and you said that you just finished eating in like 2 minutes, so I can see why.
I'll tell you what, prior to the race, I saw all of them Slyce pizza bar pictures
There you go.
and commercials. It made me hungry. I wanted some pizza. So it's not Slyce pizza, but I did have pizza because the Slyce commercial that we play, fantastic looking pizza. They're located, of course, in the St. Petersburg area of Florida. So make sure you go check them out if you are in the western side of Florida. They have a couple of different locations. Of course, the sponsor of tonight's Slice Pizza Bar, Rockingham 150. And of course, you'll see their sponsor all over the Will Warser Racing machines here tonight. In fact, about those Will Warser Racing machines, your birthday boy in the third position, Will Worsler, he is the highest place of them. Tyler Seville in fifth. Now, Worsler and Seville, those two drivers were trying to race their way in to this championship round, and unfortunately both of them got eliminated last week at Talladega. Like I mentioned, what a crazy race it was. If you're in the chat and you missed last week's race at Talladega, there's nothing stopping you from hitting the little add a tab button at the top of the screen and dragging that window over to the left-hand side of your screen, searching it up, looking it up in the archives here on 3Wide TV, and just watch the finish. That was a fantastic finish last week. Make sure to give it a thumbs up too, because those drivers really knew what they're doing. Hardly any cautions at Talladega last week. These boys here, the American Sim Racing Series, know how to drive a race car. And of course, for 4 of them, they are still chasing that Hacksaw PC prize. But qualifying has come to a close. And Alan Young in that number 24 machine, we've seen him be fast. He was another one of those drivers who just barely missed out on making it into this championship round. He will start on the pole. How about that? Great job for Alan Young to be starting on the pole. Of course, he's been a winner this year in the Boswell's Country Roads Thursday Night Throwback Cup Series. Yet to get to victory lane here in the Hacksaw PC Premier Cup Series. But that number 24 will start on the inside of row number 1. And to his outside, Greg Evans, the man who has won 10 times this year in the number 2 mobile and the first of the championship playoff drivers on the outside of row number 1. On the inside of row number 2, it is none other than Will Warser in the Slice Pizza Bar 29 machine, and John Jenkins, last week's race winner from Talladega, and the second of the playoff drivers going for the championship. They'll be starting 4th. On the inside of row number 3, the number 11 of Tyler Seville in 5th position, and James Arello in the number 3. He got a win earlier this year at Homestead, Miami, trying to pick up win number 2 on the year tonight. On the inside of row number 4, the number 27 machine of Pete Baskins with his Loud Pedal Motorsports teammate, inverse numbers there on Michael Krobach, and the number 72 will be rolling off in 8th. Starting on the inside of row number 5, the number 77 Alex Giese, and to his outside, one of the playoff drivers, that's not one of the playoff drivers, one of the other Adam Jersky's Cheesecakes machine there, Jordan Harnish there, Nicholas.
Starting in 11th will be the number 1 of Jason Stewart, and to his outside in 12th will be the number 69 of Adam Jersky. Starting in 13th will be 34 of Kelsey Rogers, and to his outside the number 28 of Troy Haight. Starting in 15th, Richard Stallings, and to his outside in 16th, Woody Mahan. Starting in 17th, the number 8 of Jimmy McKee, and starting in 18th, Michael Whiting. Starting in 19th will be the number 41 of Tim Knott, and starting in 20th, to his outside will be the 04 of Mark Myers, and you know what, I'll just take the rest here. Starting in 21st will be the number 87 of Jake Craybill, and starting on his outside will be the number 5 of Sam Crow. Starting in 23rd, the first of drivers who did not take a qualifying lap here, the number 55 of Brian Yazik, and to his outside, Doug Mullins. And then AJ Digby, John Van Vorlet Ellis, I'm sorry if I butchered that last name, and pace cars off is Richard Fletcher and JR Bash. Round out your field. We are green flag racing here at The Rock.
Yeah, great start right up at the front of the field for that outside line, because Greg Evans' power move to the front, one of the drivers contending for the championship. That number 2 will come around to lead lap number 1. Back behind him, your pole sitter, Alan Young, going to slot into second. John Jenkins vying for the championship as well. He moved up to third, so that outside line very strong on the restart. We'll have to see if that becomes the popular restart line here tonight. Will Worcester back in fourth, Tyler Seville in fifth. And you have to pretty much go all the way back to Richard Stallings and Jimmy McKee. First side-by-side battle for the 14th position right there. Looks like McKee, he's going to take that spot away from the 17 of Stallings. So move McKee up to 14th. But we're already starting to see a lot of single file here, Nicholas, and I'm not all too surprised. You know, we mentioned how difficult this racetrack is, how important it is to save your tires. This is a track where it's kind of like the tortoise and the hare. You can go out there, burn up your stuff very quickly, and all of a sudden you can start falling back. Meanwhile, right up at the front of the field, speaking of the tortoise and the hare, Alan Young looked like the hare passing by Greg Evans. Evans now going to slot back into second. Alan Young assumes the race lead. We'll go back and see this one here on the 3-wide TV replay. Doesn't look like Greg Evans gave the 24 too much trouble, just kind of laid over and led him on by, going off into turn number one. And it goes back to what I was saying, it's tortoise and the hare here at Rockingham. The two might just be kind of the tortoise in the situation, let the 24 kind of get out front, burn up his stuff. We have seen all season long, Nicholas, that number 2 of Greg Evans, he knows how to save his tires better than anyone in this field.
And that explains, 10 wins that Greg Evans has in this series this season. That's absolutely insane. And definitely, I'm sure tire saving plays a huge part in that because, of course, you're going to have better tires as you go on, and then you don't need new ones right away and whatnot. So, yeah, like you said, Peter, single file mostly. I saw a little bit of side-by-side action with the number 27 of Pete Baskins and the number 11, of Tyler Seville, but that has calmed down now as they are single file as well. So up front and behind them, still single file. And of course, yeah, like we mentioned, Peter, you're going to want to save your tires here. I mean, there's no need right now out of 150 laps to just go for position right away. And some of these guys are making moves to the inside, such as Pete Baskins making a move on the number 29 of Will Worstler as he drops back a couple of positions, now side by side with the number 72 of Michael Krobach.
Yeah, that number 29 machine of Will Worstler, of course, he started up there near the front, and the number 72 hounding him for that spot. Worstler here losing a couple of positions in the early going. Oh, he makes contact with the outside wall going into turn number 1. That's not going to help the right side of that number 29. And look at the number 32, Jordan Harnish, filling that spot. Here comes Kelsey Rogers. Will Worstler will be hoping that he hasn't done a severe amount of damage to that right side. He smacked that wall pretty good right there on entry to turn number 1. And Nicholas, you said that you saw Doug Mullins do that in qualifying twice. So here again, already striking one of the Will Worstler racing machines, not this time in qualifying, but actually in the race.
And like I said, I saw a couple of other drivers do it too, but on their cooldown lap, for example, when they're done with their hot lap, they're just taking another lap or so of practice, and I've seen them smack the wall in turns 1 and 2. So definitely a popular area around the track to smack the wall here from what I'm seeing from a couple of these drivers. A lot of guys staying off it, but what we just saw was the number 29 of Will Worstler tapping the wall there. So, and it looks like that he just slowed down just a bit, and Jimmy McKee got past him pretty easily. So, yeah, so I'm expecting to maybe even see more of that because I saw it a lot in qualifying. I think I saw it once or twice in practice, and I would expect to see it more in the race.
Meanwhile, up at the front, battle for the race lead hotting up once again. Greg Evans all over the back bumper of the number 24 of Alan Young. In fact, Evans has a nose down there as they go off into turn number 1. Will Alan Young kind of just do what Evans did to him, lay over and let him on by? Looks like that will be the case. Greg Evans going to get back up to the race lead. He led, of course, the first lap here tonight, the first 2 laps, and now he will assert himself as the race leader. John Jenkins in third right now, but it's a huge gap, folks, between John Jenkins in third back to James Lorello in fourth. You can see that time delta on the left side of your screen, about 3.5 seconds between the 7 and the number 3 right now. That's absolutely huge. Granted, it's still early. We're not even at the 10% race distance mark, but I'm really surprised at how those front 3 have really pulled away at this point in the race. I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting a little bit more tire saving. We know that Greg Evans is a master of tire saving, but is he just trying to get away from the crowd and see how difficult this racetrack is, how narrow it is, especially coming out of turn number 2? Maybe he just wants to get out front and lead some laps.
No, that may be the case, Peter, and like you mentioned, though, that gap, though, between 3rd and 4th is pretty huge, and honestly, when I was going through the drivers with my keybinds, I honestly thought that iRacing messed up their live timing, and I thought Lorello was in the front, but no, that's just a gap between the leaders and him, so nothing on iRacing's part, just me not seeing far enough ahead, so, but yeah, the top 3, consisting of the number 2 of Greg Evans, and of course, your Midwest Simulations Pole Qualifying Award winner, Alan Young, and then John Jenkins in the top 3, and then behind them, of course, a few seconds back, James Lorello, and then so on. Those guys are pretty close together.
Yeah, great to have Midwest Simulations, of course, sponsoring the pole shootout there just a little bit ago. Make sure you check out their products. I know Michael Krobach is a big fan of their spotlights that they have, and definitely a great product bringing to the iRacing service that you can use if you're an iRacer yourself. So go check them out. Meanwhile, there you see AJ Digby, one of the biggest movers in the race so far in the number 14 Mobile. He's currently up 10 positions, started in 25th, now he's up to 15th, trying to close in on the back of the number 17 of Richard Stallings. I talked to AJ Digby prior to the race, and Digby told me that he really didn't get a lot of practice time in this week. He didn't get any really on the racetrack until today, as he drops to the inside of Richard Stallings to take away the 14th position. So now he is joint biggest mover of the race with himself and the number 55 of Brian Yazik. In fact, he's closing up on the biggest loser of the race so far. But as I say that, one car peeling off onto pit road, that is Jay Crable. And the number 87, the first taker on pit road. Quite a bit of right side damage, or rear end damage to that race car. Not quite sure if he's had a incident. You can see that back bumper there crinkled in just a little bit. But Crable here going to take some tires after just 20 laps. That's very early to see here, Nicholas. I'm a little bit confused. Maybe he's calling it a night perhaps at this point, but at this point he's kind of already in a hole.
You know what? Speaking of calling it a night, Jake Crable has manually disconnected from the iRacing service session. He is retired from the session, and he is calling it a night tonight here at Rockingham. So I'm not completely sure what happened. I didn't see anything, but to be fair, I wasn't paying attention to where he was on the field. So I'm not completely sure what happened, but he is calling it a night and packing it up, taking it home from Rockingham Speedway.
Yeah, so I was just looking at the biggest movers and fallers of the race, and Will Worsler in the number 29 machine. He has dropped 6 positions from where he started, but he's kind of leveled off right now, right behind Jimmy McKee. AJ Digby, however, closing in on the battle for the 12th position, because looks like Jimmy McKee is going to lose the spot to Will Worsler, and now he's under fire from AJ Digby. Digby taking that opportunity opened up by the number 29 machine to take that position as well. So move Digby now up into the 13th position. Meanwhile, the fastest car over the last 5 laps or so on this racetrack, Doug Mullins, Woody Mahan, Michael Whiting, Alan Young, and Jason Stewart. You're going to have to go, a little bit further back on the faster, on the average lap time to actually find your race leader, Greg Evans. He's currently about the 8th or 9th fastest car over the last 5 laps on average. So perhaps his tires are wearing here just a little bit. John Jenkins in the number 7 last time by, fastest car inside the top 5 with a 24.054. So John Jenkins here starting to close in on the top 2.
Indeed, and he is definitely closing in, and we're going to see if he wants to make any move, possibly for second or even the race lead. So we'll see what he can do here. We're going to see if he makes any moves, or he's just Or is he going to take it inside? No, he's going to just let the number 24 of Alan Young just chill where he's at and just keep it smooth for now.
Looking at lap times, we've had about 1.4 to 1.5 seconds of fall off here in the first 27 laps. And Nicholas, I was kind of doing the math prior to the race. They can go all the way to the halfway mark here tonight on the tank of fuel. They can go to lap number 75, but we've already seen a, second and a half fall off. Maybe we'll see some drivers elect a 2 pit stop strategy. This pit road is pretty slow, and it's also quite a long front straight. It's not like Milwaukee, which has a relatively short pit lane. This pit lane is very, very long, as you see the number 4 of J.R. Bash fall a lap down. He'll be the first car beyond Jay Crable to fall a lap down, the only car on the racetrack right now that is 1 or more laps down. But it's going to be difficult to make a 2-stop strategy work if we do go caution-free. I expect to see pretty much everyone do the 1-stop strategy, even though they have a lot of extra tires on pit road tonight.
I was actually just thinking this a couple of laps ago. I think that they will stick with the 1-stop strategy, Peter. And like you said, it's quite a long front stretch, and yeah, the pit road, it's kind of slow, as you mentioned. So yeah, I think these guys are gonna stick with the 1-stop strategy. I wouldn't see why not. Well, I guess if you really wanted to, you could, and I just think it makes sense to go with the 1-stop strategy.
Yeah, especially with the way these tires fall off in iRacing nowadays. Now, if you had asked me maybe 2 years ago in iRacing if we might see some 2-stop strategies, I probably would have said yes. But the tires just don't seem to fall off quite as much as they did a couple of years back. As you see John Jenkins just poking the nose underneath the 24 of Alan Young, thinks better of it, backs out. He's going to stay in the 3rd position for now. And, no big deal for John Jenkins. There's no stage points or anything like that here in the American Sim Racing Series Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. He just has to keep his car clean. And, as I say that, makes a little bit of contact with the outside wall go into turn number 1. We've seen that already once here tonight out of the 29 of Will Worsler. But luckily for Jenkins, doesn't seem like all too much damage on that car. As we look a little bit further back here, this is a battle for the 8th position between Jordan Harnish, Brian Yazik, and Michael Krobach. And Brian Yazik, he was in 10th 1 lap ago. He's now up to 8th by making that move on Jordan Harnish. So Harnish went from 10th to 9th, or excuse me, from 9th to 8th back to 9th. And Yazik did the double. Of course, the biggest loser in all that mess was Michael Krobach, dropping from 8th to 10th. He has spotlights on the back of that number 72 machine. HVsimulation.com on the hood. Same with Brian Yazik, HVP Simulation on the hood of that car. In fact, Yazik, he continues his march through the field. Started in 23rd. He's up to 8th. He was one of those drivers eliminated last week at Talladega. And he's, of course, trying to finish the season out as strong as he can. He's closing in fact, on both Kelsey Rogers and Pete Baskins. Baskins, of course, one of his Loud Pedal Motorsports teammates up there in the 27th. So that number 55 definitely has a lot of pace here, Nicholas, but he started way back in the field.
Yes, he did, and to be exact, he started 23rd. He gridded up 23rd, and now he's in 8th. So it's definitely one of your biggest movers here, as he's coming up on a side-by-side battle here for 7th, I believe. Yes, between Kelsey Rogers and the number 27 of Pete Baskins. It looks like that's still going to go to Kelsey Rogers as that battle is cleared up now. But Brian Yazik now closing in on them, as Pete Baskins does go below the apron just a little bit, and looks like he lets off a little bit, and Kelsey Rogers just goes even further. So, but yeah, Brian Yazik, definitely one of the biggest movers, and it looks like 69 dropping back just a little bit here, so yeah, it looks like that he's just staying with the pace here. So definitely some interesting moves and some big moves we've seen so far tonight here at Rockingham, and I'm sure a lot more to come, Peter.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm kind of looking up and down the field right now as Will Worcester, he's going to drop underneath the 72 of Michael Krobach to gain one of his positions back. You know, Brian Yazik, he's gained 16 spots. A.J. Digby has gained 10 spots as he just loses out the 14th position to Doug Mullins, slides back to 15. But beyond Yazik and A.J. Digby, who have both gained double digits positions from where they started, most of the field is about where they started. You know, Greg Evans, he gained a spot. Alan Young, he's lost a spot. Kelsey Rogers, he's gained 4 spots. Crowbox lost 3. And then the only driver who's lost double digits so far since the beginning of the race is Alex Giese. I'm looking up and down the field. After Giese, the biggest loser is Stallings, who's only lost 4 positions. Started 15th, he's back to 19th. So the field here kind of holding station for the most part. We do have another car on pit road. Number 43 of Richard Fletcher has elected to come down pit road. There he is. Maybe thinking about a different tire strategy here tonight. Just fell 1 lap down. But I'll tell you what, going to be interesting to see when these leaders elect to come down pit road. I'm looking at the top 3 right now. They're still glued together. Evans, Young, and Jenkins. 1, 2, 3. It seems like Jenkins losing maybe a little bit of a half a car length or so on the back end of the number 24 machine over the last 2 or 3 laps or so, but still holding pace. That gap back to 4th position, James Lorello, is pretty much holding station as well. In fact, the average lap times over the top 4 drivers are all within 14 one-thousandths of a second from one another here over the last few laps. So definitely very, very similar lap times up there at the front. Tyler Seville in the 5th position, closing in on Lorello just a smidgen. Kelsey Rogers really being caught by Brian Yazik. In fact, that battle for the 6th position is red hot right now. As you see, a battle for 2nd breakout. As I say that, the number 7 of John Jenkins, he's going to take the spot away from the number 24. We saw just briefly out of the corner of the picture there that the 7 was able to make that move. You see him kind of use that low line, trying to hook that inside of the racetrack, and got a good launch coming out of the corner. What happened to Alan Young there is that wall coming out of turn number 2 in Thunder Alley, it kind of juts out at you, Nicholas. It seems like when you're up there on the racetrack, think of it like Darlington coming out of turn number 2, how that wall just kind of jumps out at you. Same thing happens here at Rockingham, and I think that's what caught the 24 off guard.
Yeah, that's what it was looking like. And bringing our attention down to pit road, the number 4 of JR Bash, who is a lap down, going down pit road. It looks like another taker a little bit early. I'm not sure if he was having any issues. I think he's going, of course, with the... yeah, he was multiple laps down, so I'm sure he was having issues. And, of course, going to try and get that fixed up in the pits. But throwing it over to the chat, of course, as always, Nikki Worsler. Rooting on Will Worsler Racing, and of course the number 14 of A.J. Digby. And of course Mark from the DMLC Racing Channel. How about my sponsored car in the top 10? He is happy about that. I believe that is Pete Baskins, and the number 27 machine currently running in 9th. Looks like we had the little kazoo moment there here on 3YTV.
Up at the front, the number 7 just trying to close in on the 2 of Evans. There you see JR Bash working his way back out there onto the racetrack. He's going to fall another lap down. Meanwhile, back around the 6th position, we have a big battle for position. Will Worsler in the number 29 after his early woes. He just got around the number 55 of Brian Yazik, who we had been mentioning. Yazik was on a little bit of a tear, and now Worsler just going to dive underneath the 34 of Kelsey Rogers. He's going to take that 6th position. So I was really interested to see there Kelsey Rogers in that number 34 machine. We'd seen that Brian Yazik had been slowly closing in on the number 34, but all of a sudden Will Worsler made it look easy. And as we got that little bit of an onboard look on Will Worsler's machine, it kind of sounded like he might be shifting down into the 3rd gear to get through the corner and just to get a little bit extra bite up off there, Nicholas.
Yeah, and you know what, I was just hearing that I heard them shift up, and of course that means they would have to shift down to get through these corners. So, and the number 34 of Kelsey Rogers smacks that outside wall, of course, in the Thunder Alley area of this track, and that has jumped out to a lot of these guys, and we're going to take a look at that on the replay here, if we can get that here
Oh,
on 3Y TV.
41. Tim Knott in the inside wall on the back stretch.
Oh, yeah.
Will a caution flag come out? The 41 of Tim Knott. Sorry to interrupt as we see that replay there of the number 34 machine. Let's see. This happened not too far in front of your leaders as your leaders are in heavy traffic. Green flag stays out. 8 of Jimmy McKee right there. And, a little bit of contact. Looks like the 8 just tried to come off the wall, tried to avoid it. And unfortunately, Tim Knott was right there. And he goes for a spin right around in the TNT Firearm Splash and Go graphics number 41. He's going to stay out there on the racetrack, falls 1 lap down. Meanwhile, your leaders are in some heavy traffic, and we have a new race leader. John Jenkins in the 7 has taken his car to the race lead here around lap number 50. We'll see if we can go back and catch a look and see what happened while we were seeing the number 41 of Tim Knott spin right around. John Jenkins came out of turn number 4. We'll see if we can see it right here. You see there's Tim Knott having his problems. And look, Evans just slid up the racetrack just a little bit. The 7 got in the throttle nice and early. Was able to pull right up to the back bumper. Just ducked down below him. There you see Mark Meyer in the 04 machine. Trying to use him as a little bit of a pick here through turn number 1 and 2. And luckily was able to get the roll. Yep, you see Mark Meyer there had to check up just a little bit. And that's what John Jenkins was able to do to get to the front. And he has not been able to pull away from the 2 of Evans as they are still continuing to close in on the lap traffic. John Van Varelis in the number 78 is the last car on the lead lap. The Stavros Pizza House Chevrolet. First car currently a lap down is the number 23 machine, Jimmy McKee, who is the number 8 machine, not the number 23 machine. I'm getting my numbers all crossed up here tonight, but McKee's trying to go for the championship here tonight, and this isn't the start he was looking for in the early going, with him already falling a lap down here in the first 56 laps.
And of course, Jimmy McKee currently in your point standings in the final 4 points behind in second in your point standings. So, of course, falling a lap down, I'm sure, definitely not something that he's wanted, of course. And it looks like John Jenkins just in a little bit of traffic he's coming up on. So we're going to see how he can get around this. He already got around the number 44 of Michael Whiting. Now to get around guys such as Von Varela, Myers. And we're going to take a look at a replay here on your screen. And
we'll see how close they get here coming out. Oh, that was a big slide out of Michael Whiting there.
Yeah, I saw that. That was definitely pretty. I didn't even see that. I just saw him pass him, of course. And, of course, the number 7 of John Jenkins still having to worry about getting through some traffic here in a little bit with Von Varela's Alex Giese and some others in front of him. So he's going to get around Von Varelis here on the inside as Von Varelis stays high. And he lets the leaders go by.
I'll tell you what, these leaders up at the front, John Jenkins, Greg Evans, they're putting together a pretty torrid pace here in the first half of this race. The 77 of Alex Giese, he pulled right down in front of the leaders to head down pit road. Looks like he's going to be here on a little bit of a 2-stop strategy. Jimmy McKee also peeling off the racetrack to come down pit road. He's the first of your playoff drivers to come down to his pit crew to come get 4 fresh Goodyear tires on lap number 60. Definitely interesting to see a driver getting a little bit off strategy here. Going to try the 2-stopper. It looks like, of course, they are within their pit window now to go all the way from here. Perhaps that's what they're thinking about. Maybe do a little bit of the undercut to get back up on the lead lap, but they're going to have to contend with a lot of traffic out there on older tires. One driver we haven't really highlighted here so far in the early going, that's Jason Stewart in the number 1 Mobile. He's worked his way up inside the top 10 in the 9th spot. He started back at 13th, running right behind Doug Mullins. And Mullins here, he's been making a charge through the field over the last 20 or so laps. He's now got himself up to 8th. Brian Yazik in the 55 is a couple seconds up the road from him, though, about 4 seconds to be precise. Will Warser's been able to pull away from Yazik, but not been able to make all too many inroads on Tyler Seville as Sam Crow in the number 5 pulls off the racetrack to head down pit road as well. Lorello solidly in the 4th position. He's about 3 3/4 seconds behind your race leader, John Jenkins. He's actually been closing in just a little bit on the top 3, as the top 3 find themselves stuck in some pretty heavy traffic. Alan Young has also lost a little bit of time to the cars in front of him.
Oh, and around goes the number 14 in a big wreck. I'm sorry to cut you off, Peter, but I was taking a look here. And Thunder Alley, and there was a caution. I was taking a look as that was happening. These guys were 3 wide. And one got into another, and they spun out. And I saw that coming. I was taking a look, because a lot of these guys were close together. We're going to see they're 3 wide right there. Got into the 14 that is spun around. Caught up guys behind them. And yeah, I just noticed they were all bunched together. I had a feeling something was going to happen. I kept my eye on them, and sure enough, we have our first caution tonight here at Rockingham.
Yeah, that is a really difficult thing to call. I mean, Rockingham here, the 77 of Giese was on the fresh tires. So he's just trying to go around the outside, around the number 14 of AJ Digby. We'll see if we can get another look at this. And the way that track narrows up coming out of the corner, very, very difficult to just kind of keep your car in line. I'm sure AJ Digby thought, man, I'm holding my line there, but the track just narrows up. So it's very, very difficult, especially when you're on older tires like AJ Digby was. You'll see this from the 77. Giese had just come down pit road in that number 77. You see him right there on the high side. That's why he was so fast. In the 14 of Digby just washed up the racetrack, caught Woody Mahan, Mark Myers, Troy Haight there in the P&N water filters machine. And watch, we cut there just a little bit, but this didn't happen all too far in front of your race leaders. Here we go on board with, I believe, is this the number 69 of Jersky, one of your playoff drivers, and boy, oh boy, that was a little bit lucky. Here we go on board with the 7 of Jenkins, and you see all this happening in front of him. He was able to slow down and let everything happen. So that back stretch here, it gets cluttered in quite a hurry. Meanwhile, on pit road, the number 7 of John Jenkins is going to win the race off pit road here. All these drivers can make it from this point in time the rest of the way. Certain drivers like Kelsey Rogers, Sam Crow, Mark Myers, Michael Whiting, and a couple others like Jimmy McKee even, they're going to be stuck here a lap or 2 down. In fact, McKee, I think, is 2 laps down right now. He'll have to get one of those laps back as the wave-around driver. But this is not looking good for the playoff driver in the number 8 machine.
No, not at all. And yeah, of course, the number 8, of course, Jimmy McKee now has been a lap down, and definitely not looking so good for him. And he came into tonight's race 4 points behind your points leader, who I believe is, well, who is the points leader? Was that
It's the 7 of Jenkins.
Yeah, that's right. The John Jenkins, that's right. Coming into tonight, he led, and then 4 points behind him was, of course, the number 8 of Jimmy McKee. So, definitely, I'm sure, not too happy with the way this race is going, as we are currently in lap 65 of 150 here at Rockingham.
Absolutely, and of course, while we are under caution, we're going to take a brief moment to step away, get some quick words for the sponsors, and we'll be right back here on 3Y TV. Well, perhaps we won't. Step away for a brief. I don't know where Mr. Producer is. Maybe he had to jump off to the restroom or something like that. But hey, we'll stick with it here on 3Y TV, and let's see if we can figure out. Well, it looks like we're about to go back green. I was going to see if we could bring in a driver up there. But Nicky Warsaw having a little bit of a chuckle in the chat. Yeah, you know, it doesn't always go to plan here at the 3Y TV booth, but we're about to go back to green, and hopefully we can go green for quite some time. The car up there on the outside groove missing his hood, that's 84 Woody Mahan. He was involved in that accident that we just had a moment ago. Looks like Mark Myers also missing a hood. Troy Haight turned into a little bit of a modified. So Christopher Bouchard saying, I told you this racetrack would eat up race cars, and definitely looks like it is going to eat. Oh no, maybe that was Mark. That was Mark Cohn, the MLC Racing Channel, that said that. So definitely, this racetrack does eat tires, especially there on the backstretch. Hopefully, it doesn't eat all too many more, because the green flag here flying once again here at Rockingham. John Jenkins out to a good jump. We saw that outside groove right at the start of the race be nice and strong, but this time the inside line going to prevail with the super clean number 7 of John Jenkins. Back to the race lead, almost making contact there with the outside wall coming out of turn number 2, side by side, a little bit back behind them. That's Tyler Seville and James Lorello, the 3 and the 11, side by side. The 11 digging down there on the inside groove. Up at the front, Greg Evans just slotting in behind your race leader, at least for now. A side-by-side battle still for the 4th position. Tyler Seville wants it in the Slyce machine, and here in tonight's Slyce Pizza Bar Rockingham 150 and Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. Of course, we have some great races to close out the season. For the American Regardless 225 next week at Texas, a Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown at Martinsville here in a couple weeks, and of course the American Regardless Championship finale 200 rounding out the championship. Got to give a huge shout out to those sponsors here in the Hacksaw PC Premier Cup Series. But Tyler Seville, he's got up to the 4th position there, Nicholas.
Yes, definitely, and I definitely looking forward to those races coming up here on 3Y TV. Definitely going to be looking forward to watching those. And of course, so you don't miss a 3Y TV broadcast for the ASRS series here on 3Y TV, don't forget to hit that bell and be sure to receive notifications here and like the video and subscribe while you're at it. But yeah, of course, your top 3, John Jenkins, Greg Evans, and Alan Young, 3 guys that we have seen up in the top 3 pretty much this whole race. And it looks like John Jenkins is still leading the way here at Rockingham.
Yeah, John Jenkins still up front, as we're pretty much now single file through most of the field. And going back to kind of what you said, Nicholas, you know, liking the video, subscribing to the channel, that actually not only helps us as a channel, it also helps the American Sim Racing Series. I'll put a pin in that because Greg Evans in the number 2 machine got 10 wins to his name this year. He just dropped to the inside of the number 7 of Jenkins, and just like that, new race leader in the 2 who's led the most laps here tonight is going to get himself back out front. It looks like he had a little bit too much time cooped up behind the 7, so you know what, I'm going to take the race lead here as we close in on the halfway distance. They'll be halfway this time by 75 laps down, 75 laps to go when they next cross the stripe. Alan Young in the number 24, he's been fast all night long. The Midwest Simulations pole sitter right there in the Young Gun Creations machine. Great job. We've seen this pace out of him a couple times this season. I think back to New Hampshire, where that number 24 was very, very quick. Of course, that race eventually won by Greg Evans. But definitely been showing his pace on some of the trickier racetracks that we've gone to. Tracks like New Hampshire, tracks like here tonight at Rockingham, Bristol, and some others. So I really think that number 24 of Alan Young, he hasn't got the victory lane here on the Cup Series side of things yet. Has done so in the Thursday night Boswell's Country Roads Harley-Davidson Series. He's due for a win here in the Cup Series. I know Greg Rentz, my typical co-commentator, has been saying it as well, but Nicholas definitely one to watch here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series.
I have been watching ASRS series here in the Cup Series broadcast here on 3Y TV, and you know, I've watched a lot of past broadcasts, even just as a spectator's viewpoint, watching from home. I've definitely seen Alan Young. He's definitely one of the guys that are sometimes up there, and definitely, like you said, he's due for a win, and maybe he has a shot in this races. He's currently running 3rd and has been running top 3 for pretty much all 78 laps here at Rockingham Speedway.
Of course, Alan Young was one of the playoff drivers. Almost contact there between Lorello and Mullins.
Looks like they're going to go side by side there for just a little bit, and I thought that was going to be a little battle there, but it looks like that was John Jenkins. Yeah, you know, Greg Evans and John Jenkins did go side by side a little bit, and I thought John Jenkins was going to be ready to make a move on Greg Evans, but he did not, and he let off just a little bit. That was going to be a battle for the lead there, but he just let off and said, you know what, you can keep your lead for now.
Yeah, you can keep your lead for now, but definitely A little bit of cooler heads prevailing there, I think, between the number 18 machine and James Lorello. And it looks like they got tight and just kind of said, you know what, no point fighting for this position at this point in the race. There's the number 8 of Jimmy McKee. Remember, he's got older tires on that number 8 machine as well, so he was able to get one of his laps back by means of the waiver round. However, bad news is he is not even in the lucky dog position. That is currently held by Kelsey Rogers, who had just pitted before that caution flag came out. You see him running right there behind the number 29 of Will Warther, who's being scored all the way down in the 13th spot, at least for now. But he kind of did this under the first run, Nicholas. He kind of dropped back, saved his tires, and before we knew it, he was charging his way through the field. So keep an eye on Will Warther as this run goes on.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I've noticed with the number 29 of Will Worsler, so we're definitely going to keep an eye on him. And it looks like lap car here staying out of the way. That's the number 04 of Mark Myers, as he's just letting everybody get through him, or get past him. It's on the outside here, so looks like still top 3, Greg Evans, John Jenkins, and Alan Young.
Yeah, we have the number 84 headed down pit road. That is Woody Mahan. Of course, that number 84, Loud Pedal Motorsports machine, heavily damaged in the one and only caution we've had here in the first 84 laps or so. Hopefully, it can stay that way as this race continues on here in the second half now. This race flying by here tonight. Of course, 150 laps around this racetrack, just over 150 miles. This racetrack isn't quite an even mile in length, just a smidgen larger, and so far so good here. I've been very much enjoying the race and the field really here tonight, Nicholas. Kind of minding their P's and Q's. I know we had that one accident there in Thunder Alley, and I was definitely surprised that we made it that far. You know, we kind of highlighted how difficult this racetrack is because it's a little bit of a roller coaster. Think of like Dover and Darlington combined, and that's about what you get here at Rockingham, and add in a dose of tire wear on top of it. So it was a great job to see the whole field get through that first half of the race or so under green flag conditions.
You know, I was just thinking that too, Peter. I was a little surprised, yeah, that they made it that far, and at the same time, I'm not so surprised because, I mean, these guys are clean racers, and of course, that doesn't take away from the fact that this is a tricky track to run, especially in Thunder Alley. So it's still, I mean, when you have clean races, of course, you still expect a little bit of action even before you get to that half of race point. But yeah, it's definitely pretty interesting how they made it that far, and that just shows that ASRS Cup Series here is made up a lot of clean drivers who can actually, I guess, usually you'd say tame Darlington, but I guess you could tame Rockingham as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a pretty good way to put it. The number 4 of JR Bash has been struggling over the last lap or so. He made contact with the wall through turn number 3 and 4, and almost getting collected there by the 34 of Kelsey Rogers there, who is currently 1 lap down, still in the lucky dog position in that race car, but luckily they're able to stay off of one another, at least for now. Meanwhile, up at the front, still Greg Evans and John Jenkins, who are riding on board with Adam Dursky, just inside the top 10. One of the 4 drivers, of course, trying to get the Hacksaw PC trophy, which is indeed a PC. And with the brand new NVIDIA RTX 3000 series coming out, I'm sure these drivers are salivating over the idea of possibly picking up one of those new NVIDIA graphics cards and one of the PCs that Hacksaw PCs has to offer. If you're in the market for your own racing PC or a PC upgrade, go check out our friends over at Hacksaw PC. Great sponsor, great product. And one of the cool things about them is on their Facebook page, they even do giveaways through their Facebook, so you can sign up, share their page, and do all that stuff, and you can possibly walk away with a little bit of additional hardware. So make sure you give them a follow on Facebook and check them out for all of your computer needs. On board here with the second place, number 7 of John Jenkins. And we saw this move earlier in the race, Nicholas. Just dive to the inside of the number 2 there on the front stretch. They're still tight here coming out of turn number 2. Jenkins having to check up and let Evans get back on the front. That was close.
I saw that and I was like, oh, is he gonna get him? And no. Alright, anyways. Back, like, just very quick, back to the computer. I mean, like, I've been trying to get my hands on a newer GTX, and now NVIDIA's out with an RTX, like, I mean, that's very cool, and NVIDIA, I'm, like, trying, now once I get the GTX, it's gonna be like, oh, that's so long time ago, we got the RTX. And once I get my hands on an RTX, it's gonna be, oh, the new something TX, I don't know, it's just, yeah, but of course, still doing GTX, but of course, it's gonna be, like, the thing that everyone's like, oh, we got the RTX now, you know, I don't look cool anymore, so, yeah, so anyways, of course, we had that little side-by-side almost battle for the lead. Oh, and what's happening, Peter?
Oh man, the Lorello and Mullins, these two, we saw them fighting, beating and banging on the front stretch a little bit ago. They were beating and banging there through turn number 2. Lorello going to take the spot from Mullins, at least for now. Mullins going to try, come back, and Lorello throws a block here on the front stretch. There's contact again.
Wow.
These two just glued together. Now Lorello's going to shoot up the racetrack. And Mullins, I don't think, is all too happy with that block. We right on board with him right here. Down the back stretch. Might be a little bit of a bump draft there into turn number 3. Mullins still just having to say, you know what, maybe I'll think better of this. Maybe I won't spin around that number 3 machine. But that was quite the block there out of James Lorello. Of course, Lorello was one of those drivers that we saw there inside the top 5 earlier in the race. He's dropped back to 6, now trying to close in on Brian Yazik, who scooted away from him quite considerably. You see a little bit of right side damage on the number 18 of Doug Mullins right there on the right side of the screen, but looks like he's going to stay in the 7th position, at least for now, as he has a little bit of a gap over the number 72 HPPsimulation.com Ford of Michael Krobach. Jason Stewart currently in the 9th spot in the number 1 with Will Worsler rounding out your top 10 currently. And Nicholas, remember what we said about Will Worsler? He did the same thing in the first run, laid back, saved his tires, and all of a sudden, like a rocket, started getting his way up through the field.
Yeah, we said we'd keep an eye on him because we were sure he was going to do that, and sure enough, he does it again. So definitely a good call there, both times by the number 29 birthday boy, Will Worsler. So definitely good call there as we're just getting ready to enter lap 100 of 150. And you know what, Peter? It's been a fast race. This race is going by fast, and a lot of good, clean racing as well. Mix that alongside with hard racing as well.
And of course, it is go time here in the Hacksaw PC series because, of course, this is the championship 4. Tonight is one of the 4 races to crown the championship. Whichever one of the drivers whose names have a yellow number beside it on the left-hand side of the screen, whichever one of those 4 drivers accumulates the most points, essentially, although John Jenkins with a little bit of advantage after a win at Talladega last week, whichever one of those drivers comes out on top, they're going to walk away with that trophy we've been talking about. In fact, let's see if we can bring up the point standings as they were coming into tonight at the bottom of the screen. There you see it. Jenkins came in with a 4-point advantage over Jimmy McKee, who's not having a good night. In fact, he's in danger here of falling 2 laps down here shortly. Greg Evans and Adam Jersky, however, of course, Evans leading the race, and Adam Jersky running in the 11th position right now, just outside the top 10. There you see him in the number 69 Mobile. Of course, no Greg Rent's cheesecake of the race here this week. We're still having to finish off those leftovers from last week. I can't remember what last week was. It's been 7 days since we last saw the Greg Wrench cheesecake of the race. Hopefully that comes back next week, but we're continuing to watch this battle for the race lead because the race leaders there having to deal with a little bit of slower lap traffic. The 41 of Tim Knott, who was damaged after spinning around on the backstretch not all too long ago there before the caution flag came out there, Nicholas. That 41 was sent into the inside wall, but stayed off the racing surface, so we did not get a yellow.
Yeah, of course, and it's great that he did that, and of course, not getting a yellow. And we've only had one yellow this race, and that was, of course, that, I guess, that pretty big wreck, of course, when these guys were just about 3 wide, and of course, Thunder Alley bit at them. I guess that's one way you could say it.
Yeah, I mean, Thunder Alley here, it's just like the backstretch at Dover. You know, the inside wall is pretty close. If you hit that inside wall, especially here in iRacing, with its springy crash physics, it will shoot the cars back up across the racetrack in an absolute hurry. So you really have to be watching for that. Meanwhile, we continue to watch this battle for the race lead. We've seen John Jenkins kind of poke his nose underneath Greg Evans once. He got a good run coming out of turn number 4. We'll see if he can do it again here this time. Doesn't look like it, so they will stay together for another lap. It seems like turn number 1 is the prime passing spot, but of course, as I say that, as typically what happens to commentators, we see a battle a little bit further back. That is the 34 and the 14 with one another. And was that a battle for the lucky dog position? Yes, it was. So AJ Digby, he's going to fall to 16th, but more importantly, Kelsey Rogers going to take away that lucky dog spot. So if a caution flag was to fly right now, Kelsey Rogers would be back on the lead lap by means of a lucky dog. John Van Varela is currently the last car on the lead lap. He's about 4 seconds ahead of Greg Evans to then be the lucky dog car. So definitely Kelsey Rogers is hoping for a caution flag before Evans closes in and catches Van Varela and puts him a lap down. But then it's a big gap from Van Varela's, who's in 14th, up to Richard Stallings, who's 13th, as Pete Biskins in the 27 Mobile. Huge slide on the front stretch. We're going to have to catch this one here on the 3-wide TV replay because this was a pretty gnarly slide here, Nicholas. Let's watch this one.
Yeah, I didn't see it on my end, and oh yeah, wow. Yeah, I wasn't looking at that, and yeah, definitely. You put it well, Peter. A gnarly slide, and just a quick little update. Last week's cheesecake of the race was the chocolate fudge box brownie, and of course not getting one because this week, because I'm filling in for the amazing cheesecake man himself, Greg Rentz, and I unfortunately don't supply people with cheesecake. So you gotta wait for next week for that one. So be sure to tune in next week here on 3Y TV.
Yeah, we're fresh out of cheesecake up here in the 3-wide TV booth, so hopefully Adam Jersky can come up here after the race and give some of that Beef Jersky's cheesecake goodness to us. But Greg Evans still continuing to lead, of course, looking for win number 11 on the season. It's been a while, actually, since we last saw Greg Evans in victory lane. That was all the way back on August 25th, so a little bit over a month ago since when we last saw Greg Evans go to victory lane, and that's pretty crazy considering he's got 10 wins to his name this season. As Michael Whiting in the 44, he's headed down pit road in the Brookside Equipment Sales machine. He's down in 19th, 3 laps down. Jimmy McKee in the number 8, he has now fallen 3 laps down as well, as he's actually come down pit road. Didn't quite catch that he elected to come down pit road, but he did 6 laps ago. And the McKee Lawn Care Services, number 8, getting a little bit off strategy here. Remember, he was on those older tires when that caution flag flew, and he was stuck a lap down when that happened. So really not the night Jimmy McKee has been hoping for. Of course, still a decent number of laps, 37 to go, but a lot would have to happen for Jimmy McKee to end up with a strong finish tonight.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, Jimmy McKee, who's currently, 3 laps down, and I don't know, yeah, you'd need a pretty strong finish here. You need to make some good moves, and not many more laps to go, as we're currently heading into lap 116 here in just a bit, out of lap 150. And of course, these laps, they take about 24, maybe 23 if you're fast enough seconds, and but yeah, so definitely he'd have to make some pretty good moves to get a strong finish, as you mentioned.
I'm looking at average lap time again. This is the point in the run where the drivers who have saved their tires really start to shine. And I don't have a lot to report on this front because John Jenkins, Greg Evans, Tyler Seville, and Alan Young, on average, are still your fastest cars out there on the racetrack. So not only have they been up there right at the front of the field, but they've also been able to save their tires and continue to pull away from the drivers around them. Jason Stewart in the number 1 also fairly quick here, but Alan Young in the number 24, he's actually been averaging a couple of hundredths of a second faster than your front drivers, but that continues to kind of cycle as we go through across the lap. This time by John Jenkins a little bit faster than Alan Young. So it kind of balances out for your drivers. Look at Jimmy McKee here on those fresher tires. He's just going to close in on the number 7 of Jenkins, drop underneath him, say, you know what, I want one of my 3 laps back. And he's just kind of mowing through the field to try and get it. Here is, of course, the race leader. This will put McKee now 2 laps down. It's going to happen here very, very quickly. But can John Jenkins take advantage of this situation? Can he try and open up the door to get the race lead from Greg Evans? Doesn't look like he'll be able to do so because McKee's going to scoot around the outside here as they go off into turn number 1. But now, Evans closing in on John Van Varellis. That will put him 1 lap down. And, oh, man, really tight there on the backstretch. I'm sure Greg Evans is a little bit of a sigh of relief there that he was able to get around the number 78 Stavros Pizza House machine. And, here comes the 7 of John Jenkins.
And is he going to get him in the turn? It looks like, oh, he's still going to try. John Jenkins in the 7 and Greg Evans in the 2. Still side by side in Thunder Alley now. Will they get this figured out here in the turn? Still side by side. John Jenkins trying to make the move. I think he will clear him. He does. Your new leader, John Jenkins.
And can Greg Evans come back to try and take that spot? No, he backs off on entry to turn number 1, but the 7 of Jenkins runs up the racetrack a little bit. That might open the door for Evans to get a run coming out of turn number 2. Not quite able to get the drive out. He will stay in second. And look what this has done. This has allowed Alan Young in the 24 Young Gun Creations Chevrolet to close in on the top 2. So he's back in the picture now with 29 laps to go. And here comes Alan Young looking to the inside of the 2. Not able to do anything. Evans going to hold on to second, at least for now.
And yeah, it's definitely been getting a little hectic here up front with these top 3. And here we have a little replay here on 3Y TV. We're going to see what happens here. And wow, just gets around the number 78. And a little bad entry there for the number 2 of Greg Evans with the last vehicle there. So John Jenkins still your new leader, of course, after that. So that was some great battling side by side there. And even with Alan Young, he started coming up trying to make a move on second place. So definitely pretty. Oh, and I think Alan Young, will he make a move here on the number 2 of Greg Evans? We're going to see what he can do here as they're side by side. Alan Young takes the second position from Greg Evans.
How about that? Alan Young looking for his first win on the season, just past Greg Evans, who's looking for his 11th win on the season. How about that? What a season it could be here for the number 24 of Alan Young. Of course, eliminated from the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series playoffs, but of course, trying to get the checkered flag here in tonight's Slyce Pizza Bar Rockingham 150. Trying to close in now on the race leader, John Jenkins, just a couple car lengths in front of him. And we'd highlighted there that Alan Young had been closing in just a little bit on the top 2 before they decided to go side by side, and he hasn't really lost any ground on the number 7. Looking a little bit further back in the pack, that's, Pete Baskins, who is, I believe, on fresher tires. He's starting to work his way up through the field. He's going to jump to the outside of Greg Evans, and Evans not going to have the run out of turn number 2 that he wants. You see, he lost a ton of ground on the front cars. He's hoping that he can get some of that ground back. But I'll tell you what, that really works to the advantage of the number 24, because if you want to be passed somewhere, you do not want to get passed to the outside on turn number 2 just because of how the track narrows up. You really have to play with the throttle, and it's going to hurt your momentum. And you can see Evans lost a little bit of time. Luckily for Jenkins, looks like Baskins was able to clear Jenkins before they got to the exit of turn number 2. Oh! 27 into the outside wall. He goes for a ride in the inside grass. And not the first
Still
time we've
sliding.
seen that here tonight on that DMLC Racing Channel Ford Mustang. We'll go back and see this one on the replay there, Nicholas.
Definitely a gnarly slide once again for Pete Baskins. We're going to take a look here on your screen and just hits the outside wall, slides right down to the inside. I don't believe he makes any contact with the inside wall, judging by that angle, and he just gets back on track. So definitely could have been worse for the number 27 of Pete Baskins. He pretty much did the best what he could there to stop that from being any worse.
And of course, that happened right in front of your race leaders as well. It's also allowed Tyler Seville to close in on the back of the number 2 of Greg Evans. We could see a battle for third position brewing up. Alan Young got really close to the back bumper there of John Jenkins. It's AJ Digby in the 14. He's going to stay out of the way. Of course, he was involved in the one and only caution we've had here tonight. Quite a bit of damage on the number 14 machine, as we will have 19 laps to go as they cross the stripe. Your leaders now catching up to the back bumper of Kelsey Rogers. Alan Young just showing a nose to that number 7. He's not close enough to make a move, but he's really just kind of saying, all right, John, I'm here. I want to get my first win on the season. Nonetheless, been a great run for Alan Young here tonight. However, this does turn out, whether he takes the checkered flag or not. He's also trying to play a little bit of spoiler here, Nicholas. He's the only driver in the top 3 not contending for that Hacksaw PC's championship, eliminated just a week ago.
Yeah, unfortunately eliminated just a week ago here in the ASRS Cup Series. But Alan Young still looking for his first win of the season, and could he get it done? And I believe he kind of bounced off the outside wall there from what I was seeing. Can we get it? Yeah, we're going to take a look at the 3Y TV replay. And does he just slide up just a little too much? And
yeah, just kind of kisses it.
This taps it a little bit. And of course, like I was saying, still looking for his first win. Could he get it done here tonight at Rockingham? And I'm saying that he's pretty good in turns 3 and 4, Peter. And I think he almost looked to make a move there on John Jenkins, but still a little too far away to do that. So could he get it done? I mean, we're currently 135 out of 150. Still, it's time and the caution comes out. What could that be for?
Caution flag is out. Car around in turn number 1 and 2. It's the 29 of Will Worsler and Brian Yazik in the HPPsimulation.com Ford. Of course, both of these drivers eliminated last week at Talladega in their hunt for the championship. And might have been a little bit of contact there between the 55 and the 29. And that Slyce Porcupine's number 29, a little bit worse for wear. The 55 of Yazik, definitely a lot of heavy damage on this race car as well. This is going to change everything here at Rockingham with now under 20 laps to go. And, oh, man, looks like the 55 was possibly leaving the door open for the 29. And Will Worcester decided to just jump in there and try and taking it, but it looked like that door was closing with that late lunge by the 29. Here we go on board with the 55. You see that door kind of open up, and yeah, just kind of a late lunge there by the 29. I know if that was on a road course, you would definitely say, yeah, that was the 55's corner. Of course, ovals, sometimes that can be tough to call, especially in the closing laps. The door was being opened. Yazik, of course, still has to go down to the apex. He's still entitled to the corner. But that is going to definitely bring out the yellow, and you can see all your lead cars on pit road. What can that Young Gun Creations crew do up there at the front? Remember, he has the first pit box. That's always an advantage. He only has a couple of feet to go until that green cone. The 77 of John Jenkins going to win the race off pit road, and Greg Evans going to come out second. Looks like Alan Young's crew just not quite able to get the 4 tires on that car fast enough. And Nicholas, he will drop down to third here. I'm sure he did not want to see that caution.
Yeah, definitely not. I was just thinking that. I mean, I think it may have been better if he were to start off second, maybe get a push on the outside and then drop down to the inside. But another thing I was thinking of, maybe that inside line can push enough, maybe, and that'll be good for Alan Young. So I guess we'll just have to see what happens here on the restart. And we're gonna we're gonna take a look here at the chat, and of course Christopher Bouchard saying, so Larry Mack's trends of the races. If John Jenkins is leading late, there is a very large chance a yellow will come out.
Yeah, in fact, if John Jenkins leads with 5 laps to go, if he leads at that point, he will have 5 laps to go in 4 consecutive races. He was leading at Bristol with 5 laps to go. In fact, he was leading at Bristol to the white flag. At Las Vegas, he was leading that race, I believe, at the white flag. At Talladega, he was leading at the white flag, went on to win the race. And here at Rockingham, again, with now just 13 laps to go, it'll be 12 laps to go this time, he is leading again. We're going to take a very, very brief step away for some words from our sponsor. We'll be right back here at Rockingham Speedway.
Welcome to Slyce Pizza Bar, where we're passionate about great pizza. All of our food is made fresh daily using only the finest ingredients and techniques. Our chefs put their heart and soul into each pie, and we're sure you'll taste the difference. Located on both Indian Rocks and Madeira beaches, chances are we're right around the corner for your next pizza night or dinner date. Come give us a try and experience the Slyce difference.
And welcome back to Rockingham Speedway ASRS Cup Series coverage here on 3Y TV. And Greg Evans currently on the outside line, and John Jenkins on the inside line are going to be restarting the race. And Alan Young, of course, who we have seen looking for his first win in the Cup Series, Peter. And we were thinking maybe he could get it done tonight. We're going to be starting off with lap 140 as the pace truck goes down to pit road. We are back, green flag racing here at the Rock, and it looks like that John Jenkins gets a pretty good restart, and of course Greg Evans behind him, and behind him Alan Young, the top 3 that we have seen pretty much this whole night, Peter, as it looks like 1 and 2 are pretty much closer than the 3 is to both of them. So, third place is to both of them. That third place, of course, is 24. He's going to be trying to get up there, try getting his nose and say, hey guys, I want my first win. Of course, they're going to do their best not to let him, as they're going to want to win, but we're going to see what he can do here in the closing laps of this race.
I'll tell you what, that number 24, yeah, he wants to get to victory lane, but he can't be overzealous at this point of the race. He has 2 drivers in front of him who are contending for the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series Championship. Unfortunately, Allen eliminated last week at Talladega. Tyler Seville right behind him in 4th. He was eliminated last week at Talladega as well. Jason Stewart in the 1 has quietly got himself up into the top 5 right back there. But one thing I've been noticing over the 2 starts of a run that we've had here tonight, the number 2 of Evans has been so fast right out of the box. John Jenkins, he's been fast on the long run. Now, John Jenkins, he's going to have to ramp that up. He's going to have to find that short run pace he hasn't had all night here tonight, with now 7 laps to go this time by.
Indeed, and still John Jenkins, Greg Evans, probably the 2 that we're going to be highlighting for the finale of this race, as we are now entering 144 of 150. Under 10 laps to go, to be specific, 7 laps to go here at Rockingham Speedway. What will Greg Evans do? I'm sure he's going to look for any opening he can find, he can see from John Jenkins, and it's definitely going to happen in the turn if anything, and he's just hoping that John Jenkins slides up just a little bit so he can stick his nose under the number 7 of John Jenkins.
I'll tell you what, man, Evans definitely getting a strong drive coming out of the corners. It seems like maybe Evans is backing up his corners just a little bit more than John Jenkins, and that's giving Evans that launch out of the corner. The problem is there's now only 5 more laps to go, 5 miles around this racetrack, and these laps are clicking by very, very quickly. Alan Young holding a good advantage there over Tyler Seville. James Orello in 5th is a little bit too far back to make a charge for the top 4. Evans here getting a good run coming out of turn number 4. Once again, closing on the back bumper of the number 7 of John Jenkins, not able to do so. 4 more laps to go here at the Rock.
Indeed, Greg Evans still trying to get to the number 7, or trying to get under the number 7, I should say. And of course, we were talking about Alan Young, but of course, he knows that these two guys are contending playoff drivers, and he'll let them just ride it. Let's say, all right, I tried getting my win, but you guys go at it. And it looks like Greg Evans, he tried getting under, because I saw John Jenkins slid up just a little bit more than usual. Greg Evans, really strong driving, especially in what I've seen by a lot of these guys in 3 and 4. I'm thinking, I think we're gonna be final lap here next time by. It's gonna be close.
John Jenkins and that number 7 machine, he's still holding a small advantage. We saw possibly a little bit of a bump by the number 2 on the number 7. There's a little bit of lap traffic. They're going to drop down. That was the 55 of Brian Yozik. Gentlemanly thing here to do. Here comes Greg Evans. He shows his nose as the white flag comes out here at the Rockingham Speedway. Tries to get underneath the 7. John Jenkins shuts the door here. Coming out of turn number 2 down Thunder Alley. Where is JR Bash going to go? Where is JR Bash going to go? He makes a late lunge to the high side. There's contact between the 2 and the 7. Evans gets a little bit loose. He's not going to be able to do anything. John Jenkins, 2 weeks in a row. Victory lane for the number 7. Super clean Toyota Camry. And what a fantastic finish for the first race of the championship round here in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series, folks. You're going to want to tune in for Texas Motor Speedway, the American Regardless 225 next week. Of course, the Surf Pro Wheelman Showdown Championship finale at Martinsville. What a race that's going to be. And, of course, the championship finale at Phoenix. If tonight's race, as I try and catch a breath, if tonight's race is any indication of what this championship round is going to be like, it is going to be an absolute stellar run to the proverbial checkered flag on this season. But this man right here, 2 wins in a row, and for the 4th consecutive week, led the race with 5 laps to go. I'll tell you what, there's no hotter driver right now in this series, Nicholas, than this man right here, John Jenkins.
Indeed, and of course, he came into tonight leading the championship 4 and the top 4 in the championship and standings, and you know what, gives him even more, so that's great. And this is coming into tonight. You see he came in 4,005 points, and he's going to get even more to his belt here after this race. So definitely a great run, and that was a great finish. I mean, we saw Greg Evans try to make a move, and then afterwards there was JR Bash lap traffic, and I didn't know where he was going to go, but of course the leaders got around him, and wow, that was just a great finish and a great race overall, Peter.
Yeah, fantastic race here tonight. Only a pair of cautions and 150 laps at Rockingham Speedway. That's almost unheard of with how difficult this track is. But John Jenkins going to do a little bit of celebratory burnouts here on the front stretch. Going to go to victory lane here in tonight's Slyce Pizza Bar Rockingham 150. But we're going to take a brief step away and line up some post-race interviews for you with the top 3, and we'll be right back here on 3Y TV.
Welcome to Slyce Pizza Bar, where we're passionate about great pizza. All of our food is made fresh daily using only the finest ingredients and techniques. Our chefs put their heart and soul into each pie, and we're sure you'll taste the difference. Located on both Indian Rocks and Madeira beaches, chances are we're right around the corner for your next pizza night or dinner date. Come give us a try and experience the Slyce difference.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Every day in business starts with a number. output, productivity, efficiency, all measured in numbers. Because data drives decisions. And if fire or water damage strikes, the numbers for your business can slow or even stop. Unless you know this one, 1-800-SERVPRO, the #1 choice in commercial cleanup and restoration.
All right, folks, welcome back to the Rockingham Speedway up in beautiful portion of the United States and Rockingham, North Carolina. And we have caught up with tonight's top 3 finishers, and what a night it was for the man who is joining me now, Alan Young. Alan, I'm sure you did not want to see that caution there with about 14 laps to go, because it looked like you were all over the back bumper of the number 7 of John Jenkins, possibly at that point on your way to pick up your first win here of the season in the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series. But all in all, Alan, fantastic run for you here tonight. What is it about these difficult racetracks like Rockingham, like New Hampshire, that it makes you really shine out there on the racetrack?
Honestly, I have no clue. I've learned to do a good job managing my tires and just kind of saving my stuff, which the first run I didn't do a real good job of it. And then that second run I knew I had to save some because it might go green till the end. And yeah, I definitely did not want to see that caution coming out, because I definitely thought I had a shot. And then I knew I didn't have a real short run car, so.
Yeah, you definitely, I mean, you say you didn't have a short run car, but I mean, you kept pace with the top 2 of Evans and Jenkins pretty much the entire night. I mean, yeah, you might have lost a little bit of time to them, but especially right there when they caught lap traffic, you were able to close in on them and, of course, make that move on the 2 machine of Greg Evans. What was going through your mind there with about 15 laps to go? Did you really have the confidence in your tires to push for the win?
Yeah, once I got around Greg, I felt like it was go time. I knew what I had to do. I had to really let it roll the center, and I knew I was catching John in the center. He was kind of pulling me off, but yeah, I just wish that kind of went the other way, but I will definitely take a third, and I'm actually surprised on how it went.
But all in all, man, fantastic job here tonight. Definitely a stellar run for you. I mean, we've been highlighting over the last couple months that it seemed like you're due for a win on the Cup Series side of things. Of course, picking up the win in the Thursday night Boswell's Country Roads Throwback Cup Series to start off the season when we went to North Wilkesboro. But here on the Cup side, definitely starting to make some strides. And speaking of making strides, hopefully you can find those strides next week when we go to Texas Motor Speedway for the American Regardless 225. Tell us about what you think of Texas, especially the reconfigured Texas Motor Speedway.
Honestly, I'm not too sure. I missed the race earlier in the year there, so I don't really know what to expect going into it.
Based on what I've seen, turn number 2, it's always a tricky corner. It was the tricky corner here tonight at Rockingham. It's going to be the tricky corner next week at Texas. So make sure you get plenty of practice time out there on the racetrack. And Ellen, I know you were eliminated last week at Talladega, but best way to bounce back from that heartbreak is to have a solid run here tonight, and hopefully you can back that up with a good run next week at Texas Motor Speedway to finish out this season strong. But before we let you go, you got any shout-outs for us?
Yeah, I just want to thank the guys at LA Sim Sport. If it wasn't for them pushing me, I probably wouldn't still be doing it. But John, Lee, Ed, them guys are great. My brother, Young Guns Creation, for making my paints, and just you guys for broadcasting, Sam and Jim for putting this league on, and everyone that sponsors.
Absolutely. A great group of people put together the American Sim Racing Series each and every week. But Alan, congratulations on your podium finish here tonight, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's going to do it for your third place finisher here, Alan Young. Definitely looked very, very strong here tonight. Another driver who looked very, very strong here tonight has basically made his way down to the end of the racetrack, and that's where Nicholas Reese caught up with Greg Evans.
Yes, I did. And Greg Evans, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you on your second place finish. Almost got first, and that actually brings me into a couple questions here, mainly about that final lap. Now, In the final lap, I believe it was in turn 1, it looked like you had a good run on John Jenkins, and I think maybe you let off a little earlier than he did.
Yeah, it was so tight coming off the corners. Man, you think you'd have a run, then you just have to let off just a little bit to keep it from hitting the wall. But we gave it a shot. I mean, it was down in the last turn. I knew I wanted to at least try to bump him, and John knew it was coming. I talked to him already. He knew it was coming. I guess with the aero package and everything the way it was in the setup, it just didn't work out the way I was really hoping it did. But John was real fast on the long run and really deserved it tonight. So.
Yeah, and there at the final corner, there was a JR Bash lap traffic, and kind of slowed John Jenkins up just a tiny bit. Did you think that you had a shot? I mean, that's when you almost got to bump him. Did you think that you had a shot at possibly being able to make a move on him?
Yeah, I knew I could get to his bumper. I gave him a little bit of a shot. I didn't want to just go in there and just pile drive him and cause a wreck. That's not the way I wanted to race. I figured if I could bump and move up the racetrack and I could stay on the bottom, it might work out. But either way, lap cars, you're trying to race clean around them, but sometimes it just causes issues. I know I was leading the race 2 or 3 times tonight in lap cars. I had to check up just a little bit, and John was able to get runs on me and pass me. But that's part of the racing.
Yeah, and definitely. And all right, next week, you guys are going to be heading to the reconfigured version of Texas Motor Speedway, I believe for the second time this season. Are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Texas. I think we had a pretty good car there at the first of the year. We had some bad luck, I believe, and didn't get the finish we wanted, but we had a really good car. Of this new tire model, I think I have an idea how to play it. And then we're also looking forward to Martinsville and Phoenix, just pretty good tracks for us too. So it's gonna be a interesting next 3 weeks for sure. So stay tuned.
Well, we can't wait to see what you have in store for us. But before I let you go, do you have any shout outs you'd like to give?
Yeah, definitely got to thank Freightliner, Detroit Diesel, Alliance Truck Parts, Duct Tape and Sure Tape, T-Rex Tape, iRacing iFlag, Carolina Sim Works, my guys from Steel Horse, and Sam and John from over here, my teammates. And thank you guys for broadcasting, and Hacksaw PC for being the premier series sponsor.
All right. Well, once again, congratulations on the second place finish, at least the podium finish. So yeah, congratulations.
Thank you guys. See you next week.
All right. Now I believe Peter Short has caught up with your number one, your first place finisher, John Jenkins. I'm gonna hand that over to you, Peter.
And I've caught up with him, and I asked John the same question last week at Talladega. Late race caution, you have been leading now late in the race 4 consecutive weeks. But this week, you're able to go back to victory lane. Back-to-back wins here in a great way to start the championship round. What was going through your mind when that caution flag came out? And once you got back to green, how are you able to hold on to that lead? Because we'd seen that the number 2 was so fast on the short run earlier in the race.
Real quick, how about me, Greg, and Alan there? That was a good race the whole time. The caution late, I was calm as could be. Jordan, he's up on the box. He said his heart rate was about 400. So, the caution come out and I knew it was game time. I knew I never really have a short run in me, and I didn't know whether I'd have a 10-lap run in me. So, glad Greg raced me real clean there. He could have sent me and won the race, but he wasn't sure how much bumper to give me there. I just kind of held it till I could get back into the gas fully.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic run at the end. I mean, great race. Like you said, kind of for the top 3. Alan Young never allowed either you or Greg Evans to scoot away, and it looked like possibly Alan Young was in a spot to win the race when that caution flag came out. But nonetheless, John, fantastic way to start off this final championship round. 4 races here tonight. Texas Motor Speedway next week. Then we go to Martinsville, which is a very tricky short track. We've seen you be very fast at Martinsville in the past, and then finishing up at Phoenix. Tell us about this kind of run to the finish. I mean, we got 3 races left after tonight.
Well, we just got 1 down, and we got 3 to go. Got the win tonight. Texas is probably one of my favorite tracks on the service, so see if we can do it again next week, or at least in the top 5. The objective is to win every night. As long as I can finish close to Greg and Jimmy and Adam. I know they had a little rough night. I know Jimmy was saying he didn't really like Rockingham earlier, and Martinsville, I'm hoping to get through Texas, and then Martinsville is the big unknown going before you head into Phoenix. So as long as I can keep the points gap somewhat decent going into Martinsville, at least, or coming out of Martinsville, I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, without a doubt. Much like what we saw at Bristol, a couple of weeks back, where you were able to walk away with a good finish there. Martinsville, another short track, another question mark yet to be answered here in the run in for the championship. But a fantastic run here tonight, John, picking up another win on the season and starting this final championship battle strong. You came in tonight with a little bit of a points gap. That gap will increase just a little bit as well. I'm sure that's on your mind here. But before we let you go, you got any shout outs for us?
Oh yeah, I'd like to thank you guys, 3YTV. You guys do a great job. Obviously, I did watch the last 2 broadcasts back, so one was not so great, one was great, and then that was me personally from Las Vegas. But Jordan up on the box, he come in after his other league race. Chris was in TeamSpeak pep talking me, keeping me cool. Super clean, being on board. MPI, they're coming out with a new seat. I emailed them a couple days ago. They're coming out with a sim racing seat, so I'm probably gonna look into that. And Dryden Performance Products, Jim, Sam, American Sim Racing Series, Hacksaw PCs, and everybody that's involved.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to be checking out one of them seats as well, because who doesn't want to add to their sim racing rig? And MPI, definitely, of course, one of the leaders, of course, in steering wheels, and really it's awesome to see them getting involved more and more in sim racing, especially on the hood of that number 7 machine there, John. But best of luck here, not only next week, but over the closing laps as we close in on who will be the Hacksaw PC's Premier Cup Series champion there, John. Best of luck.
Yeah, I also want to give a shout out to my buddy Dorian. He might have been watching, so I didn't give him a shout out last week. So Dorian, if you're watching, here you go. Thanks, guys.
All right, well, that is going to do it for our post-race interviews. John Jenkins taking home the win. Great run for him in that number 7 machine. But Nicholas, why don't you lead us through tonight's final race results?
All right, we'll gladly do. And finishing first, the number 7 of John Jenkins, and of course finishing second, Greg Evans. And wow, those two had a great battle there at the end. Of course, finishing third, Alan Young, and finishing fourth, Tyler Seville, and finishing fifth, James Lorello, and sixth, that would be Jason Stewart. Finishing 7th would be the 18 of Doug Mullins, and finishing 8th will be the number 69 of Adam Jersky. Finishing 9th, the number 17 of Richard Stallings, and rounding out the top 10, the number 72, Michael Krobach. Peter.
Finishing in the 11th position here tonight, John Van Verellis. Kind of a good recovery for him in Stavros Pizza House machine, because he at one point was 1 lap down. Will Orschler in the number 29 Birthday Boy was involved in an accident with the number 55 of Brian Yazik, and definitely not the night he was looking for. Of course, he was eliminated last week at Talladega. Sam Crow in the number 5, finishing in 13th. Pete Baskins in 14th. Jimmy McKee Remember, folks, he was 3 laps down at one point. He was able to bounce back and finish 1 lap down in 15th. So a little bit of a recovery for Jimmy McKee. Of course, he's kind of in an uphill battle here in the run-in for the championship now. Adam Jersey, of course, finished inside the top 10. So McKee, the 4th of your 4 championship drivers here tonight. Tim Knott finishing in 16th. He was involved in an accident at one point. A good recovery for him to finish 16th. Brian Yazzik involved in an accident, finishing 17th. AJ Digby also involved in an accident down at 18th. Michael Whiting, 19th. And rounding out your top 20, the number 34, Kelsey Rogers, or Nicholas.
And now finishing 21st, the number 43 of Richard Fletcher, and finishing 22nd, number 4 of J.R. Bash, who was included in that little lap traffic at the end of the race there, which made it a little interesting. And finishing in 23rd, the number 32 of Jordan Harnish, and finishing in 24th, the number 04 of Mark Myers. Finishing 25th, the number 28 of Troy Hayton. Finishing 26th, 84 of Woody Mahan. And finishing 27th, the number 77 of Alex Geesey. And rounding out your full 28 car field, the number 87 of Jay Crable.
Yeah, Jay Crable pulling off after just a couple of laps here tonight in that number 87 Chevrolet. Greg Evans leading the most laps here tonight, 89 laps, and coming home as the runner-up finisher here at Rockingham Speedway. But next week, we head on from the Slyce Speed Bar Rockingham 150 to the American Regardless 225. Make sure you check out our friends over at American Regardless. They make some great clothing, and it'll be great to have them back sponsoring another race here on 3Y TV. Got to give a huge shout out to our friends over at Sim TV for the camera angles that we bring you guys each and every week. Make sure you go check them out. They have a fantastic YouTube channels, and they're dabbling now in real life racing. They started in iRacing and now getting over into the real world stuff. Pretty cool to see that. So make sure to give them a like and a follow as well. But for myself, Peter Short, Nicholas Rees, and Carlos Acosta, we'll see you guys next week for more action. Same time, same place, right here. But until then, we shall see ya.